Welcome to the Screenblend podcast. On this episode, we have a retrospective look at The Last of Us Part 1 in preparation for the release of Part 2 later this week, or whenever you're listening to it, it might already be out. So we're joined by Connor McKenzie again, our resident game specialist, to have a look back at The Last of Us Part 1.
All right, everyone, welcome to episode 16 of the Screenblend podcast. And as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Will Cutts, and special guest, Connor. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Good morning, Jack.
Welcome back,
How are you
Connor.
today?
I'm good. Yep, it's a rainy day, so I'm glad to be inside and doing the pod with you guys.
I also like, Jack, how at the start of every podcast, you're like a weatherman. You're just telling us if it's really cold here in Adelaide or if it's raining or you
People
just
need to know. It's important.
Very timely information.
Yeah, timely information for a podcast that will be released in the coming days.
Yeah.
So, but no, it is actually raining. I've got a nice little view here. Rain's coming down, so it's quite nice. But no,
Soothing.
it is actually quite. If I fall asleep during the middle of the podcast, I am sorry. So we got some news though, Mace. We got some big news this week. Oh, I'm out of focus there. But we got some big news. Where are we getting started with?
Yeah, so we'll start with the news. As we all know, that the PlayStation 5 had its big reveal. It unveiled what its new console looks like, as well as 28 new games. And some of these games look amazing. Others are brand new IPs. There's a whole lot of mixture of things that we saw, whether it was trailers or bits of gameplay. So it was all very exciting. Just going into it to start with, what are your favorite games that you guys saw? And we'll have a bit of a chat about those. So Connor, we'll start with you. What was your favorite thing when you saw this?
Look, it'd have to be Spider-Man. Fitting the last episode, I was almost a Spider-Man chat, and hey, we called that it might turn up for the PS5 reveal. So there we go. We know things. But I also want to give a shout out to Ratchet and Clank as well, because I've been a Ratchet and Clank fan since I was a kid, and those games have always been fun. So yeah, those two.
Yeah, so while we're here, we'll start talking about the new Spider-Man game called Miles Morales. Is that about right? Yeah.
Miles Morales.
So,
close enough.
Miles Morales. Thank you, Connor. Yeah, so this is, as you've told me last night, Connor, so this is a kind of a side spin-off game from the Spider-Man on PS4 from 2018. And I think it's going to use all the same assets and everything from the original, upgrade some of the graphics, change the story around, but it's not going to add any huge things like a proper sequel would. It's
very confusing because when they announced it, it made it seem like it was going to be its own game, possibly some sort of fully fledged sequel, but there was a lot of doubt over whether that is. And then I think some sort of VP gave an interview that said it was an expansion and some other adjective on the original game, which made it sound like it was going to be a DLC thing, like maybe the original game is going to come to PS5 and they're just going to chuck this bit on there as well. But now, at about 2 a.m. local time, Insomniac, the developers, have actually come out and said that it is a standalone game. So I'm assuming that means it's going to be something like Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, it's sort of just like a small chapter released on its own. It'll have a bunch of graphical improvements, I'm sure. It'll look a lot prettier. How much it's actually different from the base game, though, we'll have to wait and see.
I'm quite interested in this and how it works out, because if we're say paying, I'm guessing for a PS5, most of these games are going to come in at about a $90 price point, I would have thought, between that. And if it's not a fully fledged game, I'd be thinking, if it's like a side quest or sort of an addition, a DLC, I don't want to be paying $90 to only get a certain amount of hours out of something, if that makes sense too. So I'm obviously ridiculously excited for this, and I don't know what our exact quote was on the last episode we spoke about Spider-Man, but I'm kind of interested to see how they work this and tie this in. Will Peter Parker take sort of like obviously a backward seat in this, but pop in a couple of times and sort of play the Miles Morales role in that original Spider-Man? And then do they both come together in like a actual sequel for Spider-Man, or is this where it's at? So I think it's interesting news, and they sort of needed this sort of big game for the general public, I think, to sort of get around.
Yeah, it's good for the PS5 launch. This is going to make me potentially get the PS5.
Yeah.
They still haven't, they've said we don't know, actually, of all the games that were announced, only one of them has been confirmed to come out at launch with the PlayStation, and it's called Astro's Playroom. It was one of the cutesy little platformers. So Spider-Man, they've given it a holiday 2020 date, but when exactly that is still a bit up in the air.
I mean, with a holiday 2020 date, if it comes out in November, then surely it can't be
maybe
2
December,
months away.
possibly.
Think.
Just in time for Christmas. Yeah.
So
I think they have to have a certain amount of games. Obviously, they're going to have a certain amount of games to release with, and I think you'd hope that a Spider-Man or something like that can be at release. I think it's needed. Again, you're going to have your NBA 2Ks, what's there, and I watched a little bit of a teaser for that, and I hate watching sports game teasers for new ones because it's just how much sweat can they put on someone to make it look realistic. But they're going to need to have at least I would think at least majority of these games available on release. I would have thought.
Yeah, I don't. There weren't dates for a lot of them. I think. You'd think that I can't remember if Horizon Forbidden West had a date for the trailer. First of all, strange name. Just I don't know. They're odd.
I don't know. Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West. I wasn't sure if it was going to be called Horizon 2, so
they're just bunches of words thrown together. Does Horizon have anything to do with the actual? I never played the original. Does it have anything to do with the game itself? Is there a Zero Dawn?
I'm sure there's some kind of metaphor there, but it wasn't immediately apparent when I played the game. And unless I'm going through a Forbidden West part of the map during the sequel.
You can't go through a Forbidden West, Jack. It's forbidden.
Yeah, impossible.
Well, try and stop me when I play the game. So
it probably will. You'll get there and the game won't let you go into the Forbidden West.
But yeah, I'm actually out of all the games, actually, I'm quite excited for the second Horizon. That's probably even beats Spider-Man in my opinion.
Wow.
But I'll just quickly read through some, and then if you guys want to have a chat about them, we'll quickly say them. So like you said, Connor, we had Astro's Playroom, Bugsnax, Deathloop, Demon's Souls remake, which I'm sure many people are pretty keen about. Not my kind of game.
I'm interested. I'm interested. Have you guys played any of like the Souls games?
I've played Bloodborne and number 3, but I gave up. They're a bit beyond my difficulty level, to be honest. But I'm sure, like people like yourself, Connor, were pretty pumped for that. We had Ghostwire Tokyo, Godfall, which looks pretty amazing in my opinion. Gran Turismo 7, GTA 5's coming back for a third console generation.
Of course it is.
Which is really pushing it now, but that's meant to come with, graphic enhancements. Not that it wasn't a great game looking, to start with. We had Hitman 3. Sorry, you go. Yeah.
Go on. No, it's all right.
We had Hitman 3, which is coming out in January. We had Jet, Kenna, Devil Inside. We had NBA, Odd Souls, Project, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil 8, Village. And then we had Sackboy, A Big Adventure from Little Big Planet, Solar Ash, and Stray.
I'd just say from my perspective, all of those ones is like I'm a pretty casual gamer, as I said on the last one, when we're talking games. For me, there's not that many title games for me to buy the PS5 at the moment. Like, if Spider-Man's not out at the time of the release of the PS5, I'm probably not going to get it. And I'm saying that now. I probably will obviously change my mind and you could come back to
eventually.
Let's say 13 minutes into today's podcast. But yeah, I think like I'll get the 2Ks and stuff, but there's no other game at the moment that's really going to me, unless a couple are announced in, like you were saying, Jack, a Batman or something in the next bit of time. Not many of those really stick out to me to go like, I've got to buy the PS5. Like, it's just my thought.
Yeah, that's a good point. They did show off a lot of indie games during the reveal, some of which I thought looked pretty cool. Some looked like there's a lot that looked kind of similar to each other. It seems like they've got a good range. They've got a racing game, they've got your action games, your shooters, they've got something for kids. But yeah, you're right. There's no, like, apart from Spider-Man, maybe Ratchet & Clank and Horizon, there's not big stuff, I guess, to draw you in if you're not already in that world. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering how much more they have to announce before launch. I mean, obviously they have to announce more launch games, but how much more, like, big titles they have to announce before then.
They've got the variety, but like you said, the studios probably want to announce their own titles in the next 2 months that are coming out, not just to PlayStation, but to Xbox and maybe
staggering
Switch.
it out makes sense. They want to build anticipation. This is just the first taste, and if it's a pretty good first taste, and everyone seems to be excited for it. So hopefully they can continue this in the lead up.
Yeah. So is there any other things you want to mention about your favorite games here before we move on?
What do you guys think of the design of the console itself? That's because obviously that's the hot topic, and no one's disagreeing about the games. But the console itself.
Again, does it have to stand up? I haven't read. Does it have to?
No,
it doesn't. It
no,
can lie flat.
It can lie flat, but apparently it looks like in the photos they've released of it lying on its side that you'll still need a stand for it underneath it.
Okay,
because it's got those weird curves and everything.
Yeah,
so
that's because I was looking at that, and I'm like, my place where I would put my game, I've got to lie it flat. I think it looks fine. Couldn't really care less, to be honest with you.
The white version does look pretty futuristic, I got to admit, and the memes that, coming out, that's a future tower in the distance. It's something that looks like it's, 21st century. It's not just a big black box.
Quick one though. Sorry, Connor. Are you going to buy the one with the disc or without the disc?
I'm going to go disc because I still own Blu-rays. I like to buy Blu-rays, and at the moment, you can still get physical games often cheaper more than digital games. Stores are going to offer cheaper prices than PlayStation on their own thing. So for now, I'll get the physical one. I don't think the price difference will be too much, $50, $100 maybe. So I'm going physical. What about you guys?
I'm going disc. My internet still gets 1 megabit a second, so
I
need
Australian
that
internet,
CD download.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you there. And I think once you look at the PS Store and games are $80-$90, and JB, not a plug for JB or any of those ones, but you can get them for $60-$70 or even big dubs still. So I think you got to do it in the end. You got to get
it would make more sense if we lived somewhere with better internet. And the other thing is we don't know the hard drive space either. Maybe someone said something about 825.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard too. SSD or something.
Yeah, but games are huge now, so that's not potentially still not a lot on there. So having to download them again instead of just being able to chuck in a disc is, especially with our internet, it's going to be super frustrating.
Very, very frustrating.
With games at 100, gigabytes each, that's, you can fit 10 games, maybe less on that,
Bloody Call of Duty Warzone is busting my ass at the moment with that. God damn it.
That's a massive file, isn't it? It's like 100 plus gigabytes, isn't it?
Yeah, and every time you update, you have to have the 100 gig free for it to update because of the way PlayStation does its updates. It copies the entire game and then downloads it or something really weird. So that's my number one feature I want from the PS5. Just fix that download situation.
Yeah, I think everyone can agree on that point. It's pissed me off for years, Connor. Trust me. I want to throw my Xbox at a wall.
Yeah.
We'll slide on out of PS5 chat now, but give us your opinions on one of our social posts. We chucked up some stuff yesterday or a couple of days ago, depending on when you're listening to this. A couple of little bits of, again, movie-related release date news. Wonder Woman 1984 has been pushed back to the 2nd of October this year. So gone back a couple of months now. Also looks like Tenet has moved back 2 weeks. Still pushing for its to release and be the first movie sort of roughly to release at the moment, but it's still pushing itself back. So any thoughts on that? Again, here, our restrictions are lifting a lot, but no one gives a flying F about if we can get people into cinemas here in Adelaide or something like that. So do you see this sort of still happening, or should these Wonder Woman's being cautious? Should Tenet just jump up and move back? What's your thoughts, Connor?
Tenet were really pushing to hold their spot, weren't they? They were going to be like, no, this is the movie. People are going to come back. We're going to single-handedly save, cinemas and everything after all the madness that's gone down. But no, so it's interesting that that's slipped. I don't know. Look, it depends on the state of restrictions everywhere else, really, as to how far these guys, these movies get pushed back. America seems to be reopening, but who knows how that's going to unfold there. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept moving back just in case.
Yeah.
Films only care about the box office numbers. They want the money, so they're going to wait until everyone's ready to go and see this movie.
Yeah.
Whereas, all the movie chains in Australia and other places that are, corona free, are going to suffer big time. They're going to have to push back their movies, all these new movie releases even further down the track. And that even might cause, some chains going broke altogether.
Well, I think too, Jake, the problem is they can't keep pushing him too far back because even though Warner Brothers have paid, say, like 250 mil for Tenet, they're borrowing that money off banks or off other. So they still have to end up paying. So at some point, they're going to have to financially just take a hit and go, instead of making $1 billion, we might only have to make fucking 500 million. I know, the tough days. So I think there's that fine line because at that point, if all the Warner Brothers movies can't release this year and they haven't made lots of money or lots of money again, relative. I'm just intrigued to see how they can't push it into next year or even wait.
No.
Like, then they're royally effed.
Maybe they will get.
Sorry, go Connor.
Maybe they will get desperate enough to release it in some regions only and not do it anywhere else. It's possible. Yeah.
You have to be cautious of spoilers. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we'll probably then get that. I would have thought we'll probably get it here. Maybe I would have thought. I don't know. The other thing I wanted to have a quick chat about is we were talking obviously a couple of weeks ago about release of Snyder Cut and sort of director's cuts of things. David Ayer keeps coming out and pushing on socials about his Suicide Squad, that Joker's role was completely ripped apart and you haven't seen my movie. And if you watch the first trailer, that's what the movie's like. And then if you watch the third trailer, that's someone else has cut it all together. I went back and actually watched the trailers yesterday just to sort of have a look. They're completely different. You sort of forget how exciting Suicide Squad looked in 2016 or 2015 when those trailers came out. What are your thoughts on this? Would you give a flying F if he got to put his actual movie together, or would that change your opinions on that sort of thing? Or do you reckon they're not going to be bothered?
Mason, after you.
Oh, well, I'm not too bothered about this, So because what were you really saying? What were you trying to say, Will?
No, I'm meaning that David Ayer keeps coming out and going like, he wants a director's cut. I'm basically like, it looks like he's saying he wants a director's cut at the moment. And is it something you're interested in seeing? Because if you compare trailer 1 to trailer 3, you can tell that something has severely happened at Warner Brothers to change the tone, sort of regarding what was going on. So, just is that something that interests you? Would that change opinions on certain characters? Maybe
it might change my opinion, but at the end of the day, they only have so much footage and so much of the script that they can, change up.
No, it's apparently so. Apparently, it's finished. It's everything that's been shot is done, because this is not as Justice League-y in a way where it's so CGI fest. I think he's more meaning a lot of the Joker scenes, and there's some Batman scenes apparently that were ripped straight out of it. So again, I'm not sure, but
okay, no, sure. Then in that, if he's done it, then it won't be too hard to put out there. You wouldn't think.
Yeah, Connor.
Yeah, I'd be interested because the early trailers made it way more dark and edgy almost. But then it was like that one trailer that had was a Blitzkrieg Bop or something in there, and that like it was going for a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe, and that's the success of that seemed to just change the whole direction of the movie. So I'd definitely be interested in seeing that. Jared Leto's Joker, I don't know if it'll necessarily change the opinion of his performance. I mean, what we got was odd. So if it's anything like that, it'll carry on. But I do worry that the Snyder Cut thing is it's just going to begin a wave of like, if a bad movie comes out, everyone's just going to demand an alternate cut, even if it doesn't exist. It's kind of like, it's a big business call, obviously, but it's kind of like almost giving into internet bullies a little bit. Or like you can argue for that. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see how the Snyder Cut actually turns out. If it's still garbage, then it might die in the water. But if it's good, it could change things.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. But imagine if the Snyder Cut's shit. Like,
it's a 4-hour miniseries or something at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Imagine if it is shit and we just go, okay, far out. Like, not good. Okay, we're not going to do this anymore.
Or at that point, are the diehards just going to, like, no matter what, it's going to be good, and we're just going to hold on to that forever?
That's not his actual movie he wanted to release. HBO
Release
Max
the
changed.
Snyder cut.
Yeah. Let him
You have
do
to
it
go back and just
himself.
film it all again.
Yeah.
Oh.
So now we'll get into today's main topic, and what we're discussing is The Last of Us. Obviously, number 2 is coming out. Let's say...
Look at Connor. He is ready with his
Oh,
Last of Us
appropriately.
Firefly shirt.
Firefly shirt.
So, what was it?
Very nice.
Thursday the 18th here in Australia. It's being released.
19th. Friday 19th.
Friday 19th, sorry.
Just in time for the weekend.
Yeah, just in time for the weekend and my Friday off. So I think we'll probably all reconvene next Saturday anyway, to have a quick discussion, see who's gone through the most of it. Now we're going to talk about the first original game back released in 2013. What for me just feels like a crazy time that this has been 7 years.
Yeah.
And we'll break it down. We've obviously got a couple of different points regarding it. We'll go over the story, what this sort of means to us. Jack, again, you can't play music. You're going to get copyrighted. I've told you this.
Naughty Dog got hit by that like a week ago. They used the song. Anyway, sorry, I'll tell the story later.
Jack, I'm being serious. You can't put music in.
Okay.
Unless you learn how to play it on guitar.
Yeah.
That could be done. I'll have a look.
Next episode. Next episode. But so I just want to ask you guys first and foremost, before we get into story, characters, etc., just give us a little bit of what this game means to you, how excited you are for the second one, and just bring us back to 2013, Connor and Jack, and how this game just sort of hit you.
Yeah.
Please go first.
So, I mean, for those who are unfamiliar with this, I'll just quickly just say it's a third-person action-adventure survival horror game developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. And it came out on PS3 in 2013, and then also a PS4 remaster about 3 to 4 years later.
Yeah.
But what made this game, I think, it wasn't so much the gameplay. I think this game was such a big hit because it could evoke, raw emotion. It made you passionately care about Joel and Ellie. The characterization was really strong. It encapsulated the innate will to survive. And, there's a few, examples, of its kind, not many people, can aspire to achieve in the game. And it's kind of a critique of society that is, at the end of the day, undeniably real. And I think it captures the essence of if we did go through this is what human nature would turn to at the end of the day. And I think
we're not far from it now.
No, we're not.
Very philosophical, Jack.
Yeah.
Very deep.
Connor,
thank you.
I love The Last of Us. I'll be honest off the bat. I haven't played it since it came out because my experience with that game, I felt at the time, was so pure and so I enjoyed it so much that I didn't really want to go back and play it because it was just so, I don't know what the word is. It was just so complete almost. I just remember being blown away by it. The performances in that game are amazing, and I think that's the thing that really elevates it to another level. Like the story, it's a zombie movie essentially, but it's the performances in that game that really bring it all together. I'm many late nights playing. Many late nights just plowing through that game, getting through it as much as possible because I just wanted to see what was around the next corner. It was just, I loved Last of Us to bits. And the sequel is something I never thought I'd want, but now I find myself kind of excited for it.
I think you've nailed it there. I remember when this came out, and again, made by the same people who've done the Uncharted game, so that sort of got me interested. I'm probably the most person to go and stay far away from any zombie related or like pandemic related content. I hate that shit. So when this game came out, I remember, and I think I said this to you, Jack, last time we were talking about it. I reckon I played for like the first 2 hours, maybe an hour, and I gave up for about 2 weeks because I couldn't get into the game. And then I think I was frustrated, and the story, it was pretty confronting, that first part. And I just couldn't get into it. And then I remember picking it up, let's say a month later, and I reckon I finished it within a day or so. Like, you just got so hooked that once I got past that first sort of part and really sort of locked into the characters and the story that unfolds, like you, Connor, I don't think I've touched it since. And it's like a really good movie that you see once and you've seen it in a perfect setting. Everything's been great, and you just don't want to tarnish that by watching it on the couch, stopping and being on your phone, etc. So, for me, I'm really excited to have this Friday when it comes out, and probably Saturday and Sunday, just to switch off, relax, and get into these characters in this world again that I didn't think we needed. But I'm really happy that they've brought it back to us.
Yeah, I want to go back and.
Yeah,
sorry, Jack, you go.
Oh, I was just saying, I remember, Cutts, when you were playing this, you're like, oh, I'm struggling so much. I'm like, Jack, how much longer do I have to go? And I sent you a picture of the chapter select, and you're like, oh, thank gosh, only 7 more chapters to go. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm here for you, bud.
Wow. Yeah, I want to go back and play The Last of Us, the original again, before getting into the second one. But at the same time, I'm also worried that going back now and looking at it, I think I've become a lot more cynical with games and less like picky when it comes to like their issues and stuff like that. I'm worried that's just going to ruin the experience and tarnish my memories of it. But like, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
I was just thinking before too. So this came out as one of the sort of last games on a PS3, one of the last big titles, and now the second one is obviously probably one of the last big titles to come out on the PS4. Looking at the way back, put us back into 2013's shoes with the PS3. How far did this push the console to get every single little bit out of it? That the graphics were unreal, the motion capture. Every time a character talked, it looked like they were actually talking. Like the sweat, the tears, the sun, the sort of expansive sets. This is probably the best use of the PS3 you would have had to have thought.
100%,
boys.
Yeah, Naughty Dog's master of the PS3 by the end of that thing. Like the Uncharted games and this, just the detail in the world is insane. And like as you say, the performances, being able to bring people to life in a video game like that, crazy.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, my game. I remember playing my PlayStation 3, and it was almost the graphics was so intense for my PlayStation. I remember it crashing a few times during my experience.
Wow.
But no, I think in terms, like you said, Connor, Naughty Dog has had such a good rep up until that point. Uncharted 2 and 3 pushed the boundaries already for the PlayStation 3, and then this game came along. 2 years after Uncharted 3, and once again, pinnacle PlayStation 3 game. And even it looks fantastic on a PlayStation 4 with the remastered version.
Good to know.
And they look to do it again, with the PlayStation 4. Last of Us 2.
Yeah. So we'll get into, before we go into the plot, I want to just talk with you guys regarding the gameplay of this. And sort of from where did this game take gameplay? And it's obviously a different style of game compared to like an Uncharted, where Uncharted you could sort of if someone noticed you, you'd just get into a firefight and you'd sort of just go for it. And you'd hope you'd be able to just bash your way sort of out of it or shoot your way out of it. This sort of added a bit more of a stealth mode to the story. How did this work with you guys with the gameplay, connecting obviously then with the story? Jads?
Yeah, Jack, you go first. I need to collect my thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Can you collect your thoughts? I thought the gameplay was good. It's very survival, so you are constantly trying to look for resources and craft weapons. And if you don't spend the time to go out and look in the nooks and crannies of the world, you will struggle because you haven't crafted, your weapons, your bullets, your health packs, and you will die. I remember getting to a point. I'm not sure if you guys remember. There's a part you go through a school. You're in the school gym, and a big boss infected comes out from the window. Yep. And have a bit of a boss battle there. I remember dying constantly because I did not collect sufficient resources before I went into that battle, and it was a pain in the ass. I can tell you that. So it really keeps you on the edge, because if you don't put in that time and effort, you are going to struggle. It is quite a difficult game, even on normal, because it does teach you to take your time and to look around the environment as you go.
Yeah, it's really good at building tension with its gameplay mechanics. I think especially at the start, in the early hours of the game, you don't have a lot of bullets, so they're like your last resort. If you're struggling, that's a one-hit kill. But other than that, you've got to make the most of everything. You've got to scrounge around, find whatever you can to make it through the next section. And I can remember being so tense during that game. Trying to sneak away from some clickers or running away, running out of bullets and trying to get past the last few people. It's just, really enjoyed it.
There were some times when,
No, go Jack, sorry.
I was just going to say there's some times when, You have so many enemies on screen. And there's points where you can kind of just reach a checkpoint without actually having to eliminate anyone.
Yeah.
So I remember just sprinting through, just dodging all the bullets and just trying to get to the next cutscene, just because some parts were just that little bit too tricky.
You cheat, Jack. This game just for me is like, you want to obviously get yourself in that full immersive experience, like turning the lights off and everything. But sometimes I'm like, I've got to just got to leave the lights on here, just so I feel like, just feel that little bit safer here. Like I know everything's good. Or I reckon when I did play this, like people would come into the room, and I reckon it's worse than getting caught doing other stuff because you're like, oh shit, like you that sort of noise or sounds like far out, especially when you're in those tense clicker scenes. So no, but we'll get into story sort of points now and beats and why this resonates so much with us. So Jack, can you just go through like a little bit of what you remember from the story? Obviously the clickers, and then Joel and Ellie and their relationship a little bit.
Yeah, so I think everyone agrees that the beginning of The Last of Us has probably one of the most emotional kind of arcs in history.
Who cried?
I cried.
I also shed a tear.
Yeah. Super strong. Out the gate.
And I'm usually a warrior, so to see me cry is quite a spectacle. So, the game starts off and you're actually playing as Joel's daughter. So he's the protagonist, Sarah. And she awakens from bed, middle of the night. You're going around, you're seeing huge explosions outside the window. You see a newscast, saying that something's, really bad has happened. But you're in Sarah's shoes and you're still not quite sure what's going on. And then you go downstairs. Joel's quickly coming inside. Your father's coming inside, and he's calling up his brother to come and pick you up and to get out of the house. And it's a really tense yet quiet start to the game. And then they try and escape, but unfortunately, Joel's carrying his daughter Sarah. There's 2 troops on the other side of the ditch. They start shooting. Joel tries to protect her, but unfortunately, she gets shot. And very tragic. And Joel's daughter dies in those initial 20 minutes of the game. And I'm not sure about you guys as well, but if I want to show anyone and how to get into video games, I would show them this initial part of the game, the graphics, the story, the emotion that's invoked, just everything, is collided so well that I would just show, if I wanted my sister to get into this, I'd be like, watch The Last of Us opening scene.
Yep. It grabs you from the get-go, really. Like, it's just such a powerful starting scene. You get an idea of the stakes of this world, like, instantly, and it helps you understand Joel from the get-go, what he becomes later in the story. Yeah, I love it so much.
No, I think from that gets you so into it from the start, and it's so, I think you might have even said it too, Jack, it's so cinematic in that respect too. You sort of feel every beat, the use of the controller, everything that I remember back at that point 7 years ago. You feel so just so connected, but also again with like moments that are obviously happening in the world today. Again, in our first world country, we're not as bad, but I feel like this could be something that could happen in some other part. Like it feels real now in today, so it sort of pulls me back into that a little bit, and it's bloody scary from the start. Like it's ridiculously scary. So talk us through, Jack, what's sort of the idea? It's sort of a smuggling game. You've got to take someone across America, basically. Just go through that for us a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll just give the outline for the game. So after his daughter dies, the infection slowly spreads, and we see Joel, 20 or so years later, living in Boston with his smuggler partner, Tess. And they have weapons stolen and sold to the firearms, which are like a revolution militia. Just ask Connor with his shirt. And he has to try and get back and smuggle a girl called Ellie out of the city. Because as we learned, she has an apparent immunity. And she has a bite 3 weeks old with no infection as of yet. So she's obviously very special. And most of the game is Joel trying to take this girl over to the Fireflies. Well, kind of, that bond between him and Ellie growing strong. And Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, let's be honest, they do a bloody fantastic job at conveying the emotion and the characterization of these characters.
Give them an Oscar.
Yeah, give them an Oscar. They
Absolutely.
deserve it.
For a lot of these games, though, too, where you've sort of like are carrying someone sort of essentially with you that doesn't have like you can't play until later on, obviously in the game. You're always playing as Joel. How do you feel they nailed that? Because they 100% nailed that relationship and the game sort of relationship. Like Ellie isn't useless. And in
No.
some games like this, that character can be completely useless, and you'll just find them sitting in a spot, and then people will just walk straight past them or whatever. It's like the game mechanics work really well. Can you just give us a little bit about that, Connor, and how this sort of makes the game what it is in a way? Too?
Yeah, it never feels like an escort mission. It never
Yeah.
feels like you have to keep an eye on
Yeah.
Ellie. From memory, there are moments where she gets in trouble and stuff, and you have
Yeah.
to help her out a little bit.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, she's a tool. She's not a tool. That sounds really bad.
Yeah.
She's part of your arsenal almost.
Yeah.
She's a big help. Yeah, there were obviously excuse me, some technical issues where she might run out in front of cover
Yeah.
for some reason and then come back and enemies don't see her, because otherwise that would just kind of break the game for you.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that kind of throws it off. But yeah, escort missions understandably get a bad rap, and it's just apart from the story sets it up to be something like that, but it's just not at all.
Jads?
Yeah. Well, she's not your generic, protect her little innocent girl. She's
Yeah.
got, she's 13, 14 in the game, and she's got quite the personality. Like, there's a scene where she's in the car with Joel, and she finds, the porno mag at the back, and she's going through. It's like, let me check this out, and then she's like, the pages are stuck together, and Joel's like, shit, and she's like, oh, just fucking with it, and he's like, oh, thank God, like she's quite feisty, and she's a fun character to be with. Some of the dialogue, she's not, oh, please help me, Joel. Like you said, Connor, she can go and fight for herself. You don't have to protect her. It's not, the AI is pretty solid all round, and she's quite entertaining. She's not the, not the princess in peril. She's quite independent and can do it herself.
Yeah, I obviously there's moments when you start to play as her later on in the game at a certain point. Now, this is how old are they saying she is in this second one? Do we know?
19.
19. So she's
19.
that little,
5 years on from the first one.
Yeah, so it gives you. I'm hoping it's fine to play as her, but when you even played as her in this game here, it didn't feel like she was a shit character, if that makes sort of sense. Like when she's the main character. I don't know if that's the best way I can say that, but I think their dynamic and the way the game makes you play as Ellie for those moments is also very, very good. Moving into sort of later parts of the story, when we get closer sort of like to the end, how do you feel that sort of works in finishing off the story, Jack? Like, does it nail it for you? Like when you were sort of going through the story, if that makes sort of sense? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so the whole story is based across, the different seasons. So there's a part where Joel gets quite severely injured at Colorado University. Yeah. And that's probably my favorite bit of the game, because that leads into winter, and then Ellie finds some scavengers. She has to have a big fight with him in the restaurant while it's burning down. That's personally my favorite part.
Well,
that's one of the big scenes that sticks out from memories of playing game. Just the intensity and the performance of the guy who plays David, who's the big bad in that scene as well. That whole scene's there's many good scenes in this game, but that's one of the big ones.
Yeah, that's the one that still stands out to me to this day. If you said, Jack, name a couple of scenes, that would be one of the first ones that pops to my mind. And she's obviously on her own during this winter part, and Joel's recovering from his injuries. And that's also when the DLC starts, but we'll come back to that as well. But I think the end, for once Joel kind of gets to the Fireflies, he's finally on his way to not necessarily delivering Ellie. He's still quite torn up about whether he should do it, because as the game goes on, he more sees it her as a daughter figure, replacing his original daughter, Sarah, from the beginning of the game. And he's not quite sure what he wants to do. But end of the day, they are captured by the Fireflies after a near drowning incident, and they are taken to their headquarters for Ellie to be operated on, and she will die.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Yeah, on this last part, it's quite strong.
Yeah. Well, because it kind of the whole game, his mission is just to deliver her to the Fireflies. He doesn't exactly know what they're going to do with her. So the revelation is that in order to get a cure or try to get a cure from Ellie, they actually have to kill her. And see what's going on inside her. I think that's a really smart sort of twist on it, and it really brings all the emotional stuff that's been building between these two characters to a head in a really effective way.
I think from now it's bringing back even more memories of the game, and that sort of last moment where Joel's making that decision to go in there and sort of get her back. That's because he's just killing. Like in a world now, when you look at it, it's like all these people are all also just humans trying to keep the human race alive, I guess, and trying to in the easiest way possible. It's like they're doing what they think is best for humanity to succeed. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But Joel just goes in there and sort of butchers people to get her out from my understanding, and it just hits you so hard. And I don't think a game, as much as like an Uncharted can have sort of like some heartfelt moments or whatever, there's moments through this where you're also thinking like, should I be doing this? Like if I'm in his shoes, is this what I would be doing? Like, did you feel that when you're in those sort of last scenes? Like, is that actions you'd also do if that was your world?
Well, that's the controversial scene of the whole end of the whole game. Would you do this? Would you, save one person and let the others die out from infection, or would you save the world and let this one girl that you become very close with die? Connor, what would you do?
I think it's important to mention the context in which this game came out as well, because at that time, more and more games were focusing on player choice above everything else. They wanted, branching storylines, excuse me again, really open worlds, letting players do whatever they want and define the story. And this was, this game just had it had a line it had to follow. There was no branching off from it whatsoever. And I think that really, it almost made things more impactful. In a way, we'd sort of become conditioned to expect that maybe we'd get to make the call at the end. We'd be able to decide, which direction to take this. And especially with the last couple of, the final scene, I'm sure we'll get to. Having a game that just said, nope, this is how the story goes. You don't get to decide. This is our story that we're telling. It's made it really powerful, and I think it's probably, I think it's a better game for it as well.
Yeah, because at the time, zombie games were the trend back in 2013, weren't they? And
The Walking Dead I think was around then, and obviously that was purely story driven. You had to make a lot of choices in that game. Yeah.
And I think Naughty Dog saw that as well. Instead of having a run and gun zombie game, which Left 4 Dead or something did years prior, they wanted a very character driven story arc, and to do what they do best, which is create a really heartfelt tale, and they accomplished that in every regard.
Yeah, it's interesting then that they went on to they didn't add like crazy player choices or anything, but they toyed with the idea in Uncharted 4. Like they had some little conversation trees you could sort of branch out. But they've stuck to their guns.
I think when you compare it to other zombie games, because this is so character driven, I think I like the fact that you didn't get a decision at the end. It was like you said, Connor, this is where they're going. This is what they want to do. This is the story they're going with. And it makes you more feel, obviously, as we'll get to the end, but it makes you feel that sort of like the guilt also of what's happened in a way, like, because you've had to do this, even if you might not agree, but to finish the story and find out where it's at. But when it comes to those final moments and that final scene, what's quite iconic, how did you guys think that played out? Was it as good as it could have been? Would have you hoped it played out differently? And sort of Joel's lie to Ellie at the end.
So
I want to see them.
I've actually got the ending part here. So they come back. He saved Ellie from the Fireflies and the edge of Tommy's settlement, who's Joel's brother, and he stops Ellie, and they have a big chat. And Ellie asks him, "Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true." And he says, "I swear." And Ellie just says, "Okay." And you can tell in her eyes, she does not believe what Joel has just said.
You think?
Yeah, I think she does. I think she knows. I don't think she believes his true words. I think she knows that he killed everyone, not knowingly, but I think she purposely does not believe him. She knows that they're really close now, and she just sees through his web of lies.
Yeah, I always took it as it's one of those great like left up to interpretation moments. Like it's played vague, or not, I guess vague enough that you can't. Well, I thought you can't really tell which way either of them. Which way which way Ellie is leaning. But yeah, I think that whole final scene in the last few moments, I think it really it makes sense for the characters 100%. Again, going back to that, if they had the option of the player choosing what to say, I think that would kind of betray the journey these characters have been on and everything that the Naughty Dog built up over the 10 or 15 hours or however long it was. So yeah, I think it made sense. I thought it was a great ending. That was all I needed. I didn't need another game after that. I really liked it.
Yeah, for me, that sort of ending, like I said, at that point, I didn't need anything else because I felt like it would take away, and obviously seeing some reviews or just scores, I'm guessing they've probably done quite well. But I don't think at that point I needed something else. The story for me was so contained, it was so good, and I was just really content after, again, moved and really, again, not being able to make decisions for these characters that you felt like you've helped get all the way through. But now I look back at it and I just go, wow, what an ending, so cinematic, and the acting there nails it, especially for a PS3 game. Like, it felt real. It felt like you were watching. And we'll probably chat about it in a sec anyway, because I want to talk about if this became a movie. But for me, this is like the perfect movie, if that makes sort of sense. I don't know if you could recapture some of these moments if you just put this to film. And I think, as you said too, the 10 to 15 hours of this journey made you feel so much more connected with these characters than maybe say like a 2-hour movie could do. Maybe
That's why they're doing a TV show.
Oh, they're doing it. It's a TV show, is it?
Yeah, it's been locked in. I think they got the Chernobyl showrunner doing the first episode.
Yeah, that's true. They've got the director for the first episode already.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that just cut that out, Cuts, when you do this episode, and it makes yourself look.
No, that's good.
Leave it in.
But no, so how? Maybe they need 10 episodes of a TV show, then, guys. Wouldn't you thought? But no, well, then that's better. I prefer TV for this anyway, so maybe I should have read the Wikipedia page a little bit.
Just gotta scroll down to that adaptation section.
Yeah, adaptation section. So no.
Yeah.
What was your sort of overall, guys? We don't have a ranking system sort of here, but
still, guys.
Nah.
I thought you were coming up with one.
Yeah, no,
Broken promises.
Jack's got to do something for this podcast soon, so you can
called out.
Come up with one. Connor, you can come on as a regular host now. So what final thoughts on the game, guys? And where are we hoping now? Again, we haven't read any spoilers, but where are we hoping the second one takes us? Or if you have read spoilers, shut the F up.
Get out.
No, I haven't.
Jack, please.
Well, looking at reviews yesterday, all the reviews embargo was yesterday. So all the reviews have come out. Lots of 10s, as a lot of people expected, 9.5s. I haven't really seen much below that.
But
I've got... Oh, did you see an 8?
From GameSpot?
Oh, they're pretty harsh games.
GameSpot gave it an 8 for the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then they're
really, really honest and consistent, or they're very harsh. Either or, depending on how you see it. But I was looking at Niche Boy from Good Game, and he had a tweet out, and this is I think what describes the summary of the reviews I've read without giving spoilers. The opening few hours of The Last of Us 2 are simply magical. It's dark magic. It's brutal and harrowing and unflinching. And it's almost perverse in anger at human nature, but it is magic. I don't enjoy playing it, but I am in awe as I experience it. So, I thought that was an interesting read. The fact he doesn't enjoy playing it, but he's in awe of the experience. So I've heard that it's very brutal, very violent, even if, that you're quite, subconscious to all seeing that usually, it does make you think, and it is quite, unflinching in terms of watching the violence that's on screen.
It seems like this is going to be a revenge story, right? Like Ellie's out for revenge for whatever reason. I won't speculate. The violence that they've shown off in the trailers, while the game looks incredible, like just visually and on a technical level, could be one of the best looking games of all time, just straight up. But in that, the violence they've shown off is like, it's intense. Like, you stab someone in the throat and you hear their like dying rasps and gurgles. The enemies, the other enemies, will call out their name like as if they were a real person. So it's like I've flinched a couple times watching some of the gameplay and stuff, just how intense it is. But what I'm worried about, and some of the stuff I've seen in the reviews, is how they justify that violence. I get that it's a spectacle thing, and it's supposed to make it seem, hopefully not seem cool or whatever. But I hopefully they tackle that in the story in a way. Like in the first game, it made, like, obviously they were doing what they do. They were doing all these violent acts to survive, which kind of made sense. But if this is a revenge story, I think they have to have a discussion about why this violence is warranted. I'm probably not putting that very eloquently, but yeah.
I get that. Not just having it for the sake of having it.
No, I think so. Yeah, too. I've tried to stay so off from a lot of this stuff for this, because I want that sort of natural. Once I put that disc in on Friday and I wait the 2.5 hours for the game to actually be available.
Day one patch.
Yeah, the bloody patch. And then I get into it. I've watched the trailers, but I've kind of just pushed myself away from it and gone, I don't really want to know too much, because I think, like you said, and I was listening to some other podcasts on some other things at the moment, and just sort of, how can we justify, like you said, Connor, all this violence in some of these games, with obviously everything also going on in the world too, like make a justification. And it's great for it to be raw and so realistic, but is that too much in some respects also? So, and again, killing the clickers or whatever in the first one was, like you said, it's about survival. Whereas if this is all just a revenge story, I'm intrigued, like I said, how they could justify it in a world where this is so realistic now that, like, when it's about survival in, like, most zombie games, it doesn't matter. Or even in the scenes where they're having to, in the first one, sort of kill those other people to survive, there's an element of, well, yeah, no shit, I'd probably do the same thing if I wanted to get out of this situation. But yeah, how can you justify it in some respects also? So
I think there's a discussion to be had about why, or to what extent do we need things to be so graphic, to be so realistic? Obviously, in a game like something like Mortal Kombat, it's kind of played for laughs. But in a game like this, I think that there's an argument to be had that doesn't really need to be so violent. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how the conversation changes once the game's in people's hands.
Yeah. So we'll just finish off. Or obviously, we're speaking about the television adaptation and stuff. But how do you want them to play this? Obviously, it's been at HBO, so it's sort of, you can be trusted a little bit with HBO producing a TV show like this. But what's your excitement levels for this TV show? Is it something that's necessary? Again, can people just create their own content and having to pull games? But we obviously spoke about the best video game movies, Jack, if you want to have a look at which episode of Screenblend, if you remember. 7. Well done.
Well done.
Yeah, that's actually a really confident guess, Jack, that if it was wrong, no one would really know too.
Look it up.
But so, no, I think, like, is this something that's 100% necessary?
I think, Neil Druckmann, who's the director of this game, he's playing a big part in casting and, doing all the behind-the-scene details of doing this new show. And HBO, so it's got the budget. I've never seen a real bad HBO-produced show apart from Game of Thrones Series 8, and that was only because, the directors and the storywriters want to get that on the road. But I think that, I think I have a lot of faith that they can produce something of quality, working with Naughty Dog in producing this show. If they find the good actors, who are very similar to Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, they've had a few potential picks from fans over the last couple of months. But I think if they cast it well and the effects are there, they can easily pull off something that's pretty good. And like you said, kind of the Chernobyl directors, episode 1, he's already, making amazing stuff. So if it keeps up this rate, it's going to be good.
Cuttsy, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm obviously extremely intrigued to see how they go with this. And I'm sort of on two sides of the story, like coin here, going, do we go big name actors to play these characters, or do we want not like an everyday man, like an up-and-coming guys to really connect with this story and grow with us over, let's say, 8 episodes or something, and maybe multiple seasons? Because I think if I was just scrolling through before too, and people are going, like, get Hugh Jackman to play the character of Joel and stuff. That's Hugh Jackman playing this character. I want someone to be immersed in Joel and Ellie. So you can go and get these other big name actors and stuff like, well, I'm just going through a list here. They're like Haley Steinfeld. No, we don't need someone I want someone who's just
too old.
Too old. I want an up and coming actor that can play these characters and really be more. I want to look at them as Joel and Ellie. I think I just said that anyway. Than Hugh Jackman and Haley Steinfeld playing these characters. If that makes sense too. So, and I'm intrigued to see how they pull it off in a world that's literally in a pandemic. So. How does that sort of connect with today's day and age and people resonate then with shit? This could actually be something that happens.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think you're right with the actors. The name, I think the brand itself has enough of a draw for people. Yeah. I think it's sold ridiculously well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure The Last of Us 2 will sell like hotcakes as well. So the draw is there enough that you don't need to have a big name attached to it. I'm sure it'd help, but I think it's strong enough to stand on its own. Look, I'm not that excited for this. I'm not really interested in a TV show version of this. I think they've done it so well already that there's no real point in doing it again. That being said, if it comes out, it gets good reviews, I'll watch it. I'd be interested to see how they change. The tricky part with any video game adaptation is how do you exactly adapt the gameplay elements to the screen when someone's not having it, when someone doesn't have a controller in their hand. How do they affect that? I think I think this one's probably more easier than something like, say, Mario. We've had plenty of zombie movies before, but something that I forgot to mention earlier, and that might be lost in an adaptation, is just the world itself. The game was so good at building the world, as much as the story was strong. There were so many other stories that were sprinkled throughout the levels themselves. Like you'd go into a house and you'd find, notes and things scrawled on walls and bits of paper lying around, and you could piece together what actually happened in these places. So I don't know if the series will have. It's probably a good thing that it's a series and not a movie, so it'll have a bit more time to sort of expand on these things. But yeah, I don't know. Wait and see. I'm hopeful, but I'm not excited.
Yeah, I have to say I'm more excited for something like this if they're pulling it as a TV show than a Uncharted or something, because I feel like they can dive into the characters a little bit more over time. But we were obviously talking about some DLC earlier in our Spider-Man sort of chat before, but did you guys both play the DLC for this? And what were your thoughts?
I did not.
Jack?
I did. I played Last of Us Left Behind, which
don't
came
spoil
out.
It too much for me, Jack.
No, it came out.
I know I'm 10 years late almost, but
I won't. No, there's not any really huge spoilers here. So this got released, I think February of 2014, so just under a year after it was released. So it's standalone DLC. You don't need the original, and it just pretty much tells the story of Ellie and Riley, who was her friend. And it goes between the timeline of when Joel was injured and Ellie helping him after the university incident, and throwing us back into a shopping mall where she's hiding from the infected with Riley. And at the end of the day, there's not many spoilers here. It's a very narrative driven, more so than lots of big action set pieces. But it just sets off how Ellie actually got infected and how Riley was infected. So at the beginning of the game, you find out, she is infected when she meets Joel. And this shows how it actually originally happened. Okay. And it also sets up a bit about her relationship and, because she does have a kiss with Riley. So it might sets up where her heart's at, really, in future games. But beyond that, it's there's a lot less combat. And there's not a whole lot. It's not overly long as well. It's maybe 5 hours, give or take. But it's just enough of a prequel to just set up the original game and to give us a bit more backstory on Ellie.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
Yeah, I haven't played it either, I think. It got to I just never really picked it up. I think, like you and I, Connor, said earlier, once the game sort of finished for me, I was sort of done with it. I didn't really need something else to come back a year later to pick it up and re-enter that world. I was pretty content with where we were at. So, again, but it's a interesting one. So, as we just finish off our chat with this now, what's our final thoughts? And then we'll move into show and tell. Jads?
Yeah, well, I love Last of Us. Similar to you guys, I think it's, you might want to go back and play it. But for me as well, it was a one-time thing. absolutely loved it. Fantastic story, great characters. But even after all these years, I'm ready to go into the second one and to see where the story takes it. From the sounds of it, there's going to be open, larger worlds, similar to Uncharted 4 in terms of what Naughty Dog have done quite recently. Some new infected, and I'm mentally prepared for a dark story going into the second one. What as depressing as it sounds, quite relevant and something I'm willing to experience. But bring on next Friday.
Connor, cool. This game to me it's one of the games that defined the PlayStation 3. In fact, not just the PlayStation 3, that whole generation. That was sort of the pinnacle of storytelling that I think that generation hit. Whether it's been exceeded or not since then, up for debate. But I think it's a classic already. It hasn't been out that long, but it's already just such a well-made game from start to finish, well performed. Yeah, it's up there with some of the great games of all time. And also, I can confirm that the Video Game Movies podcast was episode 7. So well done, Jack.
Oh, thank you.
Nailed it. Knows his stuff.
I can rest easy tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, very well done. So I have to also agree in some respects that this is one of the best games ever, and I'm just excited to sit down and whether we come back here again, like I said earlier in the pod, and discuss next Saturday, depending on how far everyone sort of got through in their first thoughts on the game, is something I'd be keen to do also. But it's just an exceptional roller coaster ride that I'm hoping everyone enjoys. And if you're listening to this and you haven't played it, pick it up quickly before the game comes out next week. So move into show and tell now. Jads, what have you watched in the last week since I last spoke to you on our great top 5 romantic comedies? A real move this episode is away from our top 5 romantic comedies of all time. Connor, is there any of are you a big rom-com man anyway, or not at all?
Look, I'll watch them. I'll watch them. I'm not opposed to them. They're not something it's not like I go to the cinema to see them, but if someone recommends one or puts one on, I'll sit down and have a look. Yeah.
What's your top couple of rom-coms?
Oh, geez, that's a tough one. Does Shaun of the Dead count as a rom-com?
I'd say that's actually not a bad shout.
It's a rom-com.
Yeah.
I think that's 5. Yeah, probably Shaun of the Dead. I'd have to. Jeez, I can't even remember what.
Yeah, Joe. Well, we won't put you on the spot, Connor. That's all good.
But I'll keep thinking. I'll come back to you.
Jads, what have you watched in the last couple of days or read?
Yeah, so I've finished Love Story with Anna Kendrick.
So did I. What a show!
See, last we heard, we were stitching Jack up for this, but it's won you over.
I finished it, Connor.
That's good though.
Jack, what was your thought on the end? It's better
towards
than
the end.
Yeah,
I felt like it ran out of a bit of steam. Everything was moving so fast for Anna Kendrick's life that I question how much more of the show there is to go, if any. It ended on quite a good note. If there's only going to be one season, without giving spoilers, I enjoyed it. I liked her relationship. I love Anna Kendrick. It was a good rom-com. Maybe something to watch. Yeah. I was going to say with the girlfriend, but you and me, single lads, watched it by ourselves. So,
Jack.
Yeah, no, forget I said that. Hold on. No, I didn't mean that. Sorry. But yeah, so good watch. And I also watched. I'm still watching Watchmen on Foxtel currently, the new show that launched last year.
How's that going for you? I haven't seen any of it yet, but everyone's raved about it, and I do want to sit down and get to it. How are you finding it?
I'm loving it. It's it's very dark. You once again do have to be prepared. But if you love comic books, which I know you do, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Yeah, very good. Yeah, no, fantastic. It's very lots of characters, and you can't really be on your phone for this one. You do have to pay attention to what's going on with the narrative, because there's lots of different sidelines, stories that I'm only up to episode 5, so I do assume a lot of them are going to collide later on in the series. And like I said to you, Will, last week, apparently towards the end of the season is probably one of the best episodes on TV from what I've heard. So I'm looking forward to how they approach that. And then I'm just going to quickly come in and say it. I did finish Control a couple months ago, and Con, I know you've been playing it. So this is a PlayStation 4 video game. that came out, I think it was about August last year,
Yep.
by Remedy Entertainment. And it's a game where you play as a girl and you're going through a huge FBI building called the Old House, and you have supernatural abilities, and you have to unravel the mystery behind your missing brother. And I love to hear your views on it, Connor. I'll give mine after you give yours. And what do you think?
I really liked it. I finished it 2 nights ago. Kind of snuck up on me, the ending, actually. But no, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's this weird sort of X-Files-ish supernatural story that I think twists and turns in all these really cool ways. The oldest house itself is almost a character in the game. It's essentially this big monotone office building, but it's got so much character and stuff in it. It twists and turns. You know, there's all this dimension hopping. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. But I really liked it. The shooting, it's a third-person shooter. The shooting itself is rock solid. I found the weapons felt amazing. Like that pistol you start off with, I pretty much stuck with it the entire game just because how good it felt to actually shoot. Just exploring that world, I loved. I think it's got almost a reverse problem of Spider-Man, like we talked a couple of weeks ago, where I think the side missions are almost more interesting than the main missions. Not so much from a story perspective, more of a gameplay perspective. There's a lot more. You do a lot more different things in it, whereas the main story just ends up, I think, being a bunch of fights against a lot of goons. There's no real like big boss fights or anything.
Yeah, the side missions almost bring more boss fights than the main story, I thought, and that's why I almost like the end game more so than the story itself.
Yeah, like the ending, it didn't feel. It kind of was very abrupt to me. Like obviously, the story and stuff was building to a head, but I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but the last boss fight isn't really a boss fight. It seems just like another fight against a bunch of people, and then the game just kind of you get through that, and the game just kind of ends. So I'm not. I don't know. It wasn't the ending. It didn't really deliver a big hit. Like it didn't land entirely well for me. Also, I was playing it in like 2-hour portions every week or something. So maybe that's why it just didn't. It was too spaced out to build up. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I have a couple of issues where the performance on PS4 isn't great. It does
had a lot of slowdown.
Yeah, a lot of slowdown. I had it crash on me once. Getting in and out of menus, it lags doing that, which is annoying. And another thing I found odd is you can only have 2 weapons equipped at one time, which you have this really cool shape-shifting gun. It's a one gun that turns into everything, but I don't understand why you couldn't have like a weapon wheel with all of them accessible at once. That's just me nitpicking. I'll shut up now.
No, I couldn't agree more. And while you did enjoy this game, I had a really weird relationship with it. I didn't enjoy it, but I kept playing it. So I just felt, because once I start something, I need to finish it. That sounds a bit weird, but
Okay.
When I finished it, I enjoyed it so much more because you did have, the boss fights with, there's one where you go through a mirror and fight yourself, a version of yourself. There's a mold battle. Yes, there's all these really good side missions. And at some point, throwing things at enemies started to grow on me. And as I upgraded my abilities, I didn't die as much. I think that also helped my enjoyment because there's no difficulty level, is there?
No, and you are pretty vulnerable at the start. You sort of decide you have a few fights and you run through them fairly easy, but then you die deceptively quickly. Like it doesn't take many hits for you to get knocked down, which I didn't mind. It sort of made you have to use your abilities a bit more and get more creative with how you're tackling fights, which is good. But so what do you think was the thing that drew you through? Just the fact that you had to finish? There wasn't any sort of positives to it for you?
I think the gradual, the fact that I could keep upgrading my powers and finding new abilities kind of kept me going. But the map, everything looks the same. I found myself running in pretty much circles half the game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you felt the same way.
It's not a great map. It's just a flat top-down picture. It could have used like a 3D map or something maybe. It didn't. It got a bit frustrating every now and then, but it didn't really ruin anything for me.
Yeah, to me, environments all look the same. There wasn't enough, of one thing that made anything stand out. It's a lot of grey rooms, very dark.
Yeah,
supernatural stuff.
Okay. Oh well, I think we have our first disagreement, Jack. We're
yeah. Oh, well, not to say, I did finish off the boss battle. I was nearly finished 100%, but But I think there was one good bit in it. I think you can agree with this during the story. We're in a maze. Some heavy metal music comes on.
I didn't get that at all. That was, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, something that gets you completely out of the blue. You're going through this dark, mysterious game, and then some, heavy metal comes on. You're going through this maze that every 10 meters you start walking, what in front of you changes. Like a side wall might open, the front wall might shut, enemies might pop out. That's probably the best part of even any
Super
game I've played.
Really? Wow. Big call. Cuttsy,
I know.
Does this conversation make you interested at all in the game?
You guys are still here. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm not interested in that time.
Fair enough.
I just let you guys go because you were just enjoying it. I was like, okay, you guys are battling off.
Look, I could go on for a while. I think it's a very interesting game, but we'll table it.
Yeah, we'll table it. So, how about you guys? Any other recommendations from you?
No, I'll just say, Jack, on your point of Love Life, I've just looked up, and just yesterday, it's been announced in the first run of HBO Max shows that this has been renewed for a second season. So,
good news.
But pardon me, there it is going to focus on a new group of characters where Anna Kendrick's character will come in and out of the story. So it will not be about her; it'll be about a new group of characters. So I'm guessing this is going to turn into something as like, let's say, like sort of maybe a skin sort of thing where it's going to have a different group of characters each season and use New York, as every bloody love story has to, as the background for these characters. So interesting that this has been a hit, but I'm also thinking it's a hit because HBO Max has literally nothing else on its streaming services at the moment.
I don't know what that service is. I haven't.
Apparently, it's lost all the DC movies at the end of the month. All the DC movies are coming off, and then they're going to come back in a couple of months. So they're not looking to keep the catalog there. It's like it's going to be a rolling catalog. So you'll have the DC movies for a month or two, and then they'll go, and then some other stuff will come on, and maybe it's to save cash or whatever. But yeah, that service is not great.
I guess the HBO's probably got enough stuff to rely on that they can draw people in, but I guess they have to keep making stuff is the issue.
Yeah. So other than that, I haven't really watched anything else. I'm still bouncing through Snowpiercer. It's fine. Not the best thing I've ever seen, but once Jack, you've finished with Watchmen, I will start watching Watchmen then too. So,
okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
And Connor, any shows from you or films?
I haven't watched too much recently. I will give a shout out to Big Mouth on Netflix. Animated comedy from Nick Kroll.
Very good.
I love it. I just finally got through the third season the other week or something. Hilarious. It's, if you don't know, it's basically a animated comedy about a group of teenagers going through puberty, and it gets really surreal. There's a hormone monster or a couple hormone monsters, and there's all these crazy characters. If you're a fan of ridiculous animated comedies, it is very forward with its like sexual references and stuff. So don't watch it with your parents. I've had to avoid that. I've kind of sat in the other room but no, 100% recommend. Hilarious.
Jack, did I talk about this one on a previous pod or not?
You did, and I was a bit off put by how weird the animation looked.
Yeah,
but
don't let it put you off. It's hilarious. Yeah.
It is, It's sort of, for me, Connor, at the moment, that's sort of one of the shows where I got like half an hour for somewhere and I'll just chuck on a quick episode, sort of, instead of rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Friends or whatever, it's like, okay, I'll just chuck on one episode of that. And it's always funny, but like you said, it's confronting in a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of stuff with it where I'm like, far out, they're going with it. But I like the fact, I think I said when I brought it up on a previous episode, that by doing it on Netflix, it's sort of, they don't have to worry about any of, like they don't have to worry about networks and all that sort of stuff. They can just put it out, and if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to come back. I know that's no shit, but
it is R-rated for a reason. Like one of the episodes in the most recent season, there was a plot involving one of the kids, teenagers, they're like 13, 14. One of them taking a dick pic, and they sometimes they dance around it, other times they don't. But give it a watch.
Yeah, they're quite self-aware.
I'll do it after Watchmen.
Yeah, they're very self-aware, I think, too, with where it's at. And you, like you said, those sort of moments, you're like, oh shit, yep.
You're like,
okay, yep, know about that. Here we go. But the way they play on growing up teenagers of men and female is also good too. It's not just so they're touching on subjects, but also the way they do it, I thought was quite good. So
they're taking the piss out of it, but also like having something to say about it. Like it has,
Yeah.
it doesn't just. It's not like South Park does a similar sort of thing where they just get crass or whatever. But yeah, there's a point to it, and really enjoy.
Okay. Good. Is there anything else, lads, or are we going to reconvene next week? I reckon. If we're all...
well, I'm all TV'd out, so I'm good.
We're good. Easy. So perfect, guys. As always, Connor, where can everyone get to you to have a go at your opinions from today's episode?
You can come at me on Instagram and Twitter. CEEJAY MCKENZA CJ McKenzie. I feel like I don't need to spell that out every time, and here I am.
No, that's good. Jack, what's yours, or have you forgot it again?
I've forgotten again, but Jack Mason _22 or Jack _.
Right.
That sounds right.
It will be below.
One of them.
What's the 22 for, Jack?
The date of my birth, so like the 22nd. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Very good, Jazz.
Are
we all 22s? I'm a 22.
I think we might be.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's wow. Destiny. Jesus, that's kind of creepy.
That is actually that's actually
odd.
Pretty, yeah.
What do we got? April? Or is yours August, Connor?
Yeah, August.
Yeah, August and October. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Quick one, little side note. Do you guys have anyone who shares the same birthday with you, like any celebrities or anything?
Jack Nicholson for me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't know about celebrities, but I have like 2 people I know that actually have the same birthday as me, which I find crazy.
August 22nd. I'm just going to go birthdays, Connor. And see.
And Amber Heard for me as well, which I'm proud of.
James Corden has the same birthday as you. Kristen Wiig.
No.
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll take that. Yeah. I've got some guy who used to play for the 36ers for like half a season, one of their like shitty imports. And
Lucky you.
I added him on Facebook back, would have been like 2012. And every year he'll send me a message. Got like
that's hilarious.
But like he's like the way he sends it is just so hilarious. He's like, "Oh, great, but I just thought I screenshot it every year. I'll put it all together, but I think it's hilarious."
A gallery.
It's just a gallery of the birthday messages from him. I always look forward to it. But no,
did you know him? Had you met him, or
I met him? I met him once. It would have been, when we went through those phases with Facebook, where you like add everybody, and you'd see an athlete on Facebook, and you'd be like, or someone of
why not
profile.
But yeah,
throw it out. And he added me back. I was like, okay, that's weird. And just every birthday year, every year he sends me a birthday message, and now I have to too. So he hasn't deleted me in like everyone's cull. He hasn't deleted me. I'm like, maybe it's just because we share a birthday.
Nice.
But no,
sure that's it.
Yeah, shut up, Jack. Again, as everybody, you can follow us at Screenblend _blend on all the socials. Go have a look at Jack's work on the website there. Make sure you give us a little quick review. If you're in app, it helps a lot. 5 stars. Connor's great. Cuts is really good. Jack could lift up a little bit, but other than that, it's really good. Jack's microphone is unreal or something.
Sounds husky.
Need to justify my purchase. Husky,
Husky AF.
Yeah, husky voice. But yeah, make sure you put a review in. Go back and listen to some of other previous podcasts if they interest you. And yeah, always get in contact with us with anything. And we look forward to chatting with you guys about Last of Us Part 2 coming out. Thanks, Connor, and thanks, Chad.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.